It's nice Monday night. We'll wait until it pops up over there, and then we'll see what's what. I haven't been following through with Paula and Robert Harrison's suggestion that I quote Seinfeld. Maybe I should. Maybe I should. We'll wait and see. In the meantime, it's been 30 seconds, so it should pop up any second now. Let's see, let's see. I got a reaction, I got a heart. Okay, hello, hi. Now I see myself, and I'm live. It's the Nazarite, bringing you that Hebrew lore from days of yore. Hello to Robert, who's here. Hello to Sneezer, who's here. We're going to continue the chat, the discussion, and the yo-yos. Have you brought your yo-yos? I haven't, because I suck. Okay, it just started for us. Beautiful, beautiful. Oh. And what? No, it's okay. All right, so we're just going to dive right in to the chat from yesterday. Also, I think I'm just going to go for an hour today because reasons. BMXers with dreadlocks said, HN, Christianity, at least traditional Christianity, teaches the church have replaced Israel. So right, that was people in the chat were discussing super succession, right? If that's the right way to pronounce it or read it. Radar said, grafted in, not all Christians believe in super successionism. Well, let's put it this way. Many of the Christians and followers of Yeshua that I've met are basically saying that the old covenant is dead and gone. But, well, less so the Messianics, if you will, but some people call them complete Christians with a Jewish facade. I don't have a horse in that race. But the idea of looking at things through the lens of Messiah, as a Messianic friend says, or said back in the Netherlands, to see things through the lens of Messiah and the teachings of Messiah in the Christian or Messianic Jews kind of way, that is, after all, if you don't believe that the church replaced Israel, then certainly it's a new Israel that exists and coincides without replacing or superseding, but definitely existing and having an advantage, let's say, over the Old Testament. That's what I've known, though I might be wrong. Sneezer said to BMXers, I find the contrary. Understanding experiences differ. Most of the churches I've been to support Israel as their foundation, right? Completely overlooking most of the New Testament. So Sneezer at the time said what I'm basically saying, what other people have said, that some do think that the New Testament completely made it null and void, and that the church replaced Israel, and some say no, they exist side by side. And so Sneezer, right, who is a follower of Yeshua, said that most of the churches he's been to support Israel as their foundation. And this, I think I'm inclined to agree with. Christianity took a major left turn on a few things. But the foundation is a Hebrew one, is a Jewish one. But, once again with the buts, I like big butts, and I cannot lie. The left turns, or the twists and turns, which Christianity took, it already got to the point where it left that foundation of Torah, in my estimation, right? So don't take my word for it, obviously, but from my reading of the Torah and from my speaking with Christians, followers of Yeshua, and my one glance at the New Testament, my one reading of it, I found that's why I was attached a lot more to the gospel, in the sense of, oh, this I can see how it's kind of a Hebrew or Jewish foundation. And then with the letters and Acts and all that, it felt to me, and I tried not to read it with prejudice. I tried not to read it as a biased Jew, Hebrew man who does not believe in Yeshua's divinity or in his return or in his resurrection or any of that. Maybe I succeeded, maybe I didn't. I just know that I sort of inherently connected more with those stories of what went on there in the time of the Second Temple, right, and in the Gospels, as opposed to things that came later in that book. So he said, Ariel said, personally, I doubt the World Economic Forum and BlackRock have all that much influence on society on a global scale. So, right, I remember that the WEF came up and BlackRock, I don't know precisely where, so I'm not going to waste your time looking back in the chat, but we'll leave it at what Ariel said right now. Maybe he will clarify, maybe somebody else will speak, and I'll remember more. Maybe you people remember more of what was spoken yesterday in the chat on those issues of the World Economic Forum and BlackRock. Sneezer said, the New Testament I read is highly anti-Semitic. One of the reasons I try to understand the other perspectives. Well, that's commendable, to try to understand other perspectives at large. Go to bed. Taylor 26 says to BMXers, to support supersessionism, it would be Galatians 3:28. To not support it would be Romans 11:1-6. And to Sneezer, so the previous comment was to Sneezer and not to BMXers. Sneezer said to Ariel, I hope not, right, that they have no influence. But I'm in Canada. Apparently they have over half our MPs, right, being members of parliament, if I'm not mistaken, MP. Because here MP simply is military police. No, but, member of parliament, yeah, I think that's what that is, I assume. Taylor 26 said to Sneezer, I actually don't think Jesus was against the Pharisees. I believe Jesus was only against the Sadducees. So I'm assuming that Taylor means there is to disagree, right? And then there's to be against, not the same thing. So if I'm hearing him correctly, Taylor said that he was against the Pharisees, not against the Pharisees, he pushed back, but he wasn't against them. Whereas he was more actively, let's say, against the Sadducees, the Tzdukim. Now, the Tzdukim did have something to go on in the sense of they will be the chosen ones and the ones to continue the Hebrew faith later on, not necessarily in how they wanted to conduct ritual worship, not necessarily in what they thought of the eventual resurrection of the dead and rising above death and all that, but right, the priests, the sons of Tzadok, do have their place, and it's a very important place according to the prophets, or the books of prophets. Taylor 26 says Sneezer, nah, several direct quotes of him suggest otherwise in the Gospels, but not so much against, said Sneezer, wanted the two extremes to make peace. Well, that's always a good thing. Peace is made between enemies, right? These are people who make peace. More often than not, it's enemies who make peace. He was frustrated with them, with the two extremes, said Sneezer. Taylor responds, there were both good and bad Pharisees. Talmud says this. Jesus was against the bad Pharisees. Well, right, good and bad are in every kind of group. In every camp you have good and bad. But when it comes to laying down the law and making halacha, even before the temple was destroyed, where ever since then it's only 4 cubits of halacha in this world, as the Talmud says, there was halacha that was being passed down, and it was more free or liberal, I suppose, because it wasn't written down yet. It was more of an oral teaching, hence the words oral Torah that the Mishnah, the Talmud pertained to. That they pertain to being an oral tradition, an oral Torah. Of course, every group, says Sneezer, has their good and bad, understanders and pretenders. Understanders and pretenders. The Tao Te Ching says, the one who speaks does not understand. No, the one who speaks does not know. The one who knows does not speak. I've always liked that. I've wondered where I am there, because on the one hand, I can blah, blah, blah a lot. And on the other hand, there are certain things that over the course of my life, I can't say that I know them, but I'm certainly in the process of acquiring them. So I guess I'm a bit of column A, a bit of column B there. Taylor 26 says to Sneezer, if Jesus is against the Pharisees, how come they never went away? Only the Sadducees are threatened by Jesus' movement in the book of Acts. Okay, maybe he might answer. Oh, okay, so Sneezer presumably replies to him, to Taylor, saying Jesus' work continues until the last of the good Jews repents. Bisan Salama said Palestine or Israel. Yes, those are words. Pali or Israel. Also, both are words. Robert Harrison said Israel. Sneezer says, likely extending to human, not just Jew, right? Until all the good humans repent. So Sneezer was amending what he said. Robert said, Israel all day, every day. Well, that's where I am. That's where we're at. Sneezer says, there are still some out there with the potential to become God who have not yet realized God is unconditional love. There are still some out there with the potential to become God. Well, right then and there I disagree, but that's just me. Who have not yet realized God is unconditional love. Oh, become good. Become good, not God. Okay. Those who have the potential to become good, who have not yet realized God is unconditional love. So if I heard Sneezer correctly, what he's saying is that when somebody becomes better, they are able to better realize that God is unconditional love. And then I would think it's a kind of positive feedback loop, right? Where that feeds into that, right? You do good and you get good, and you see things as good, and you are surrounded more by divine love and grace unconditionally, though there is a facet of divine revelation that is unconditional, and there are facets of divine revelation which are completely conditional, as we see in the Torah. The Torah says, if you follow the commandments and you keep the covenant, right, and you keep the commandments, then you will prosper, your children's children will prosper, you'll have a good life there, and a sword of a different nation won't even, right, a foreign nation's army won't come into your land, even if it's on the way not to attack you, but to attack an army through your land, right? A sword will not pass through your land, not even to attack you, right? Not even to attack your enemies, let alone attack you. Bisan said to Robert, no one asked for your opinion. Technically the truth, nobody asked, but it's a free chat. Ariel says, Sneezer, people claiming financial organizations control the world has been claimed for so many hundreds of years. When you do the research, it does not add up. When you do the research, it does not add up. I don't doubt that, but I also say that it depends on the type of research, because if you go and do research, you have a question usually that's guiding you, and as such, you may be motivated in a certain way, guided in a certain way, oriented towards a certain end goal. Not that I'm saying that was the case, Ariel, but it's something to consider. I know that as somebody who's a non-academic, right? I'm not an educated man, so I can't speak to research which can really yield a kind of objective truth or near objective truth. But subjectively, I know that whenever I research into anything, my biases are, and confirmation biases, I know that they are there. I try to contend with them, but they are definitely there. I wonder what Ariel means. Ariel, if you're here or if you're listening to this sometime, or maybe you'll clarify later in yesterday's chat. Old chat, new day. It does not add up, he says. Okay. Palestine all day, every day, said Bisan. It's open conversation here, he said Sneezer. And Sneezer told Bisan, I also support Palestine, but Jonathan here is in Jerusalem proper. That I am, in Jerusalem proper. That being said, he supports peace. Yes, I do. I do. And I also know that sometimes in order to make peace, you need to wage war. It's definitely not the default, but sometimes it must be done in order for peace to be acquired. Many times it's through blood and through pain and through misery and suffering and trials. And you don't get to start a war and then cry when you're losing. Sneezer says, blessed are the peacemakers, they shall be called children of God. And I think he said that already once in the past. That makes some sense to me. Ariel Marshall said, I will never claim to know exactly what goes on outside of my immediate vicinity. But one way or another, Ariel said, I think it is unfair to expect elderly Jews and those who cannot protect themselves to live in a community which is not governed by other Jews, governed by people who are openly Jewish. It's unfair to expect elderly Jews and those who cannot protect themselves to live in a community which is not governed by other Jews. I wonder what this is in reference to, maybe something that was being discussed yesterday at the time, but I don't really recall what it was. Sneezer says, I retracted my own earlier. Right, he's speaking of a chat. BSD, said BMXers, is the BMX brand. Oh, okay. So he said earlier in the chat, he said he likes BSD but not BDS. Oh, pardon me. Ariel said, most people have absolutely no idea what life is like for people claiming Jewish ancestry living under regime. Well, I've never lived under a regime that wasn't Jewish. The 3 years in the Netherlands, I don't know if it counts. I've never truly been a minority, at least not the Netherlands aside, because that was a lot of well, anyway, aside. Robert Harrison said, will the comments section be full? And BMXer said BDS is a bunch of crap. Well, you know, if you believe that Israel is all of those horrible things that these people in the BDS say they are, I have no doubt about what they're doing and why. So, but yeah, a lot of the things they do, I don't know much of it, but the idea of boycotting and sanctioning and deplatforming or whatever the D stands for, there are many more. Look, there's a silent majority who's neither here nor there. There's a very vocal minority that is exceedingly vocal, supporters of BDS and BDS themselves and Palestine and so on. And then there's Israel. And I think we are the smallest in that group. Israel and supporters of Israel, like actively being supportive of Israel, is very much in a minority simply because of the numbers. It's more of a technicality than anything else, I think. But okay, I'm not sure about that. Sneezer says to Ariel, you suppose it's different than, say, Asians escaping their political oppression? Yes, I think it is, Ariel said, but relocating is difficult for anyone, generally speaking. Tyrone has the flag of Israel and poop. Cool. People in Israel also go to the bathroom. You know the book, Everybody Poops? 'Tis true. Sneezer said, summoning is specifically forbidden in many places for very good reason. I have been possessed by some very nasty beings, but was trained by the master. For me, predictions and visions, said Sneezer, always take interpretation, which I usually do wrong. But say how should have been seen, but seeing how should have been seen after. Yes, I know what you mean. There are some things, I'm not speaking to any visions or predictions that I've had. The ones that I've had, I must say, were very straightforward. The ones that I've been able to identify as, oh my God, this is really divine revelation that I'm receiving right now. And while it did take time to sort of sit in my gut and in my heart and in my mind and in my speech and to kind of to go with it, to go with that Torah, to go with that revelation, to walk with it, to experience life after it, right? And be able to integrate it once the revelation occurred or the understanding, the epiphany, the vision, then there comes a time when you need to just get down from that cloud, put your feet back on the ground and say, okay, so now what? Because having a vision or a revelation is one thing, integrating it into your life is another, and that sometimes takes time. So I know what you mean. Never forget the Dominican Republic, said Marshall. Tyrone says, are you supporting your government on the genocide? I haven't voted in 20 years or so. I don't really support politics, and I don't believe there's a genocide going on in Gaza or in Judea and Samaria. So the question is kind of moot. Tyrone, where are you from? Asked BMXers, to which he answered, United States. Oh, whoops, I left the chat. Uh-oh. Where am I? Wait, now I'm in this chat. Hang on, I'll get back there. Ah, here we are. So he's in the United States. What's Risk? Said BMXers with dreadlocks. Risk is a board game. Sneezer said, the order of reincarnation as per my revelation is first you return as all those you've hated so you can understand why you shouldn't have. Recursively before returning as all you've loved to learn why you had to. That is a lovely little teaching. I mean, it doesn't. I don't think it aligns with anything that I've heard in the Hebrew teachings and in the Hebrew traditions, but it's definitely one way of looking at that which we are commanded to learn in this life, right? Because reincarnation is basically what we, for different reasons, what we either didn't get to, or it wasn't our destiny or path to get to and to complete. What is it?
Go to your chat right now.
I'm reading yesterday's chat, man. Okay. So you know what? I'm gonna head into the new chat. Go to sleep. This guy. Alright, heading into the new chat. And there are people here. Oh, okay, so. Hey, what? Wait, no, come on. I don't know what's going on here, but people are... okay. Okay. Hello. Alright, you know what? I guess I'm in the new chat now. So should I start from the beginning? You know what? Screw it. I'm already here and I'm... You brought your yo-yo. That's lovely. Okay. I will get to this at some point. But right now I'm just gonna go... Hey man, said Ariane. Hello, hi there, and hello, Ariane. Which Ariane are we talking about? You can't stop me from watching. This guy. Okay. What is a yo-yo? Okay, you know what? I'm not going to argue with you live on the air here, my son. I'm going to go back to the old chat. So the teaching which Sneezer brought down of the order of reincarnation as he sees it, or is it a Christian teaching or a New Testament teaching? I don't know. BMXers said that he has a flag of the States and poop. I don't think either one of them is true. I think there's people poop in the States as well, am I right? I'm just trying to learn, said Kat. BMXers, that's it, Zionist? Oh, Tyrone said to BMXers, that's it, Zionist? Having hated everyone, said Sneezer, it was a very long trip. Wow. BMXers answers, yes, anti-Semite. Never been to the United States, but it's poop just because I say so. All right. Tyrone says, well, the majority of my friends and family are Jewish because I live in a Jewish neighborhood, so you can call me anything you want. You can call me anything, you fascist. Ooh, people slinging some dirt here yesterday, huh? I'm glad I didn't get to there first. I'm glad I'm getting to there now. No, that's okay. You can sling as much dirt as you want. It's all good. It's all good. Sticks and stones. Sneezer said to Tyrone, what the fuck did you pull that from? BMXer says, and I'm a fascist just because you say so. Tyrone replies, no, just because the government you are supporting is doing exactly what fascists and Nazis did a century ago with the innocent Jewish people. Innocent Jewish people, okay? Sneezer said, it's not so great a gap. God made us with plan. Tyrone continues, and now your government is doing this to Palestinians. Oh, I see. The Nazis and fascists did it to the Jewish folks, and now the Jews are doing... Yes, that's a very famous argument that has no basis in reality. No basis whatsoever, but that's just me. Sneezer says, or do you think God did not know we would be weak? Well, again, I wouldn't presume to know anything of God's mind or what God knew or didn't know. All I know is how God reveals himself to me. So I'm thinking that if you're going to create an image of God, Adam, that's going to be really, really close to divinity, but not quite, I think that gap of humanity and divinity is a weakness that is inescapable. And we have both of them, right? We are the high and the low, right? We are we are the entire world, and we are dust and ashes. BMXers with dreadlocks, and this is the end of that chat, said, who are innocent Jewish people? Self-hating Jews? And then I left. So that's where we were. That was yesterday's chat. It's been 25 minutes, and now I'm going to hop over to this chat. But first, I'm going to say a couple of things, a couple of comments from the last couple of days. Paul Torbert asked, do you still wear tzitzis and talis, right? The prayer shawl and the mini prayer shawl. And I've addressed this in the past, but I answered him right. And he also said, I'm a little upset that my timing is terrible with the live stream. One day, says Paul, I'll be there. So I answered, I'm vegan, and I don't wear wool and nothing made from animals. So the tzitzis and the talis, mainstream tzitzis and talis, are vegan, and so, are not vegan, and so I don't wrap them around me. But if I go into a synagogue and they want me to cover my hair, rather than cover it with just a fabric, I put my talis, my prayer shawl, over my head. It's how I love to pray. It gives you seclusion, right? And I put it like not just over here, I put it all over. It's basically on me like a little tent, if you will, right? Like a prayer shawl that's over my head, mostly. And if not right over my head, sort of covers down to here. And it gives me that seclusion, right? That hitbodedut. Even if I'm even if I'm part of an entire congregation, I have my own little corner with the Most High. So I did wear them for years, and I do love the idea of the tzitzit katan, of the tzitzit gadol. There's so much there. It reminds us of our covenant. It reminds us of it reminds us of the commandments and of what we are to do and not to do. And I brought down the story right from the Talmud of Rabbi Elazar ben Dodaya, whose tzitzis smacked him on the face. So that was last night. It was really lovely. Truly, it was lovely. Okay. So, wow. You know what? It's been 20, almost 27 minutes. Oh man, you know what? No, you guys have been here. I'll read some of the chat and then I'll say goodbye. So, 07 Peacemakers, said Sneezer. Robert Harrison said, before I came on, he said, in regards to Pinky's short vid this morning, I have one reply. Wise words, Pinky Winky. Wise words. Oh, pardon. Indeed. It just started for us watchers. Sneezer said, the video explaining my new language will be visible after the show. All right, cool. Yo-Yo-Yo said BMXers. Who else is here? What's with the hiccups? And my son is online. Go to bed. Who else? So Ariane, and I said hello. Okay, let's see. Who else? That's it. Okay, cool. But wait, I saw... You know what? Since Ariane is new here, if you guys don't mind, I'll just dive into what she or he wrote, because they're new. Hey, man. Are you special kind of rabbi? No, I'm not. I'm not a rabbi at all. Should all rabbis avoid combing and taming hairs, or is it only happens in a special branch? So I'm not a rabbi. I'm not any kind of scholar or master or teacher of any kind. I bring down things that I've learned. I might give my own little spin or take on them, right? But I'm definitely not a master, not a teacher, not a rabbi of any kind. I have hair like this since I've taken a Nazarite's vow, which you can read about in Numbers 6 and in the story of Samson if you're interested. My name literally is Ariane. Okay, cool. And not really, I'm Muslim. Assalamu alaikum. All right. Marhaba. That was it from Ariane. Maybe he or she are all still here, maybe not, but I'm going to go back to the beginning. Sneezer says, Luke 16:16 is quite clear on the succession topic. Most churches just ignore it. Well, you know what? That's something that I do all the time. I pick and choose everything. Because I've found that even though it's that kind of cafeteria faith or cafeteria religion, right, style, I think that for me, so far, major parts of it have worked. Now, there's also a disadvantage here. There's a disadvantage to being the type to pick and choose, right? I cherry pick everything. I like this and I like that, and I'm going to ignore that, and that has nothing to do with me. I pick and choose everything. It's how I've been for, I don't know, I mean, even before the vow, but let's say 14, 15 years, something like that. So it's something that The thing with picking and choosing is that it's a dynamic process. And one might say that even keeping strict halacha is a dynamic process because we are dynamic creatures, and as we go through life, different things happen, whether they are cyclic in nature, like the year and the month and the day and the week, or whether they are things that happen in the course of your life that happen globally. Halacha touches everything, right? The individual and the general congregation and the public and society, the nation, the city. And it's from the moment you wake up to the moment you lose, to the moment the melatonin washes over your brain and you enter dreamland. But I've found that I couldn't limit myself like that. And I couldn't constrain myself like that. And I decided, again, after a lot of soul searching and more, that I need to pick and choose. Now, the disadvantage there of picking and choosing is that I commit to certain things wholeheartedly, but the rest I pick and choose. And to some people on the outside, and sometimes even to me, there's a kind of uncertainty on what it is that I ought to be doing. But the way I see it, as long as I keep to my pillars that I've adapted by my own definition, and they do correspond with Torah to some degree, right? Those roots, those pillars that I've stuck in the earth, in the earth that is my being, to the degree that I have. Some you might say are stronger than others, right? Those pillars that I've stuck. I have great confidence in those pillars' ability to keep me grounded and sane and, God willing, humble. So, and Sneezer just said sup. Look at that. To BMXers. Go. Come on, man. I mean it. Good. Not to talk about war, said Robert, but in Dagestan, Christians and Jews together are being persecuted. Where is Dagestan? I actually have no idea, so do let me know. No, he didn't say Pakistan, he said Dagestan. I have brought my yo-yo. See? There they are. BMXer said to Sneezer, I just replied to your comment. Just before I went on the chat. Member of Parliament, yes, said Sneezer. Also military police to any military members must be confusing. Seth Hall, where are you? Where's Craig Leese? What do you think of Islam? Now, Taylor, are you talking to me or are you talking to somebody else? I'm assuming you were talking to me. So I've mentioned this before. The deal with me and Islam is this. I grew up in Israel, surrounded by war. I grew up surrounded by terrorism. I grew up surrounded by nations that want to kill me. And if not the actual people, because that's debatable, definitely the regimes, the leadership, and the suits and the people in charge, right? And the spiritual leaders, more often than not, want to annihilate me. Me, personally, as a member of the Hebrew faith. And if I were to convert to Islam, obviously they would have no problem with me. If I would be cast out to a different land, they'll get there eventually and maybe convert me to Islam, right? Because Islam means submission, right? Submit to Allah. However, because I grew up here, my view of Islam has been warped and bent and twisted by war, terrorism, hatred, and I can't speak of it truly because it will be through that lens. And it's also why I haven't read the Quran, because I don't believe I'll be able to read it properly. I will always be seeing everything that I've been through and everything that I've seen in Israel, and not to mention things that happened recently, some months ago, and are still ongoing. So my views on Islam, I never give them. I never provide them, because I think that they wouldn't be authentic. They would be authentic if you consider somebody who's been twisted by war and hatred upon me, not my own. Maybe my own too, because I don't wash my hands clean of all hatred. I strive not to hate, but Lord knows there have been some things that I've seen that I've felt hate stir inside me, to be sure. I don't think I'm a hateful individual. People might disagree. But the point I'm trying to make is that, forget hatred. War and terrorism is enough. Lifelong war, lifelong terrorism is enough to warp anybody's brain. And we are all here, Hebrews in Israel, in like this post-traumatic nightmare. And not to take away from anyone else's suffering, not across the border or not in Gaza or anywhere else. People are suffering all over the world, and a lot of us are suffering here. It's a nightmare. It's a blessing to be in Israel, and it's a nightmare. My homeboy literally, says BMXers. HN almost at 400 subscribers. That's nice. That's nice. I'll do a thank you when I reach 400. I'll do a little thank you video. I used to do those, right, in my old channel. BMXers, said Sneezer. Ah, now I understand, just replied to. So, okay, some connections are being made here and in the comments. Taylor says to Sneezer, have you read the writings of Swedenborg, John Balau Newborough, or Robert Monroe? Wow, I don't know any of those names. But it's a good thing he's not asking me, right? Yes, I hadn't thought of it in that way, but it is very true. BMXers with dreadlocks said, by the way, does Daniel speak more than 3 languages or just 3? Either way, I'm impressed by him. Well, his Dutch, he forgot it since we've come back to Israel. But as I've said before, psychologically, the changes that learning a new language, those were already done in his brain. So the fact that he doesn't speak the language or read it or write it any longer, that's less of a thing. Because the more languages you learn, the more your mind expands, and you learn how to think in different ways, quite literally. And so the psychological unlock has already been carried out. And obviously it would be buttressed and made more, well, stronger if he was still speaking the language, but no. So he's English and Hebrew. And I'm pushing him to learn Arabic because it's important. Sneezer says to Taylor, no doubt if I have not read them directly, then second or third hand. Hi, it's me, said my boy. Yo, son. Robert said, seen a good video on the location of Eden, right about Persian Gulf. Yeah, Eden has that twofold reality to it, where it's metaphysical and it's physical, right? Because it mentions, let's say, certain rivers, and it mentions Kush, Africa, but it was also a spiritual place because, right, there's 2 Eden. There's Eden Elyon and Eden Tachton. There's the higher Eden and the lower Eden. At least that's how it's taught in the Pardes Rimonim by the Ramak and in other books. There's a higher Eden and a lower Eden. Hey, just spoke of you, said BMXers. Just 2? I don't know what that means. Oh, is that where that quote came from? Heard it in a kung fu movie once. I'm not sure which quote he's referring to. Oh, only just two languages. Okay. Okay. I didn't find it's not fair for elderly Jews very relevant either. I didn't quite understand that. Maybe that was something that I'm simply, like, that went over my head because it's me reading yesterday's chat, and the references, as I've said, are gone in some ways. Sneezer says, but then I'm not, so don't know the finer points. But then I'm not, right, an elderly Jew. Okay. Robert says, when the Brit HaChadashah, the New Testament, came about, how come you never hear of the Philistines? I suppose that's a good question. I think that Rome only titled this area Provincia Syria Palestina after the expulsion, right? After the temple was burned. No, actually no. If the temple was burned in 70 of the Common Era, it stands to reason that they already started calling it something different. No, probably afterwards. I'm thinking that after the destruction of the temple, that's when Rome called it Provincia Syria Palestina. But the Philistines, if I'm not mistaken, they have Grecian roots in Greece or thereabouts. The Philistines, the actual Philistines. Because if you recall, the Plishtim, the Philistines, are not one of the 7 nations that dwell in Israel. And because of that, they were not one of the 7 nations that the Israelites were commanded to wipe out. And because of that, the Philistines have always been a sore and a thorn in the Israelites' side, which is also why Rome called this place the Palestina province after they took over. They wanted to eradicate the name of Judah and Judea and Israel, so they renamed it the Syria-Palestina province. Syria after Assyria, who exiled the 10 tribes, and Palestina over the Philistines, who were a pain in our ass. Sneezer says it's not the people in my case, it's the leaders and the systems that put them there. Wow, see, there's got to be a better way of conducting this chat. There's got to be a better way of conducting this chat. I'm not sure, because look, you people, you come here, you engage. I don't want to just start from zero every single time, because you took the time to write something, and there are dialogues going on here, questions being asked, questions being answered, opinions being put forth, and I want to address them, I want to read them, I want to become more enlightened and wiser, from your experience and your knowledge and your wisdom. And it just always seemed to me in all these years I've had this channel, or the previous channel and this channel, that I should give you guys the courtesy of reading it out loud, at least until such a time where there are so many that I never catch up. And definitely there were times, thought I saw something, but definitely there were times where I had like a few days behind, right? Back in the height of my old channel, when I was nearing 1,000 subscribers at the time. And sometimes I had a couple of days worth of chat messages to go through, and it would be a great blessing, once again, to read them all, to acknowledge them, well, everything I just said. But it's difficult because I'm reading it here and it's from yesterday, and so I'm missing the context and the references, and it's difficult to give a proper answer, which calls into question my very reading it. Is it worth it that I'm reading it if I'm not able to properly address it and reference it and know what it's about in context? It's kind of a double-edged sword, if you will. Robert says, I think Gershon were Moses' descendants. So no, there's Gershon, which is the son of Levi. And there's Gershom, with an M, not an N, with a mem and not a nun. Gershom, from Gersham, a foreigner there, that's one of Moses' kids. But it's not Gershon, the son of Levi, right? The progression was Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, Levi, Kehat, Amram, Moshe, right? Moses. BMXer says, quotes, so save me your stories, I'm raising an army, revolutionary warfare with Damian Millie. We spark in the iron, march in Zion, you know how NASB, NYC, state of mind I'm in. Yes, got to keep on walking on that road to Zion, yeah. Now, Damian Marley was supposed to come here a few years ago. I don't know, when was it? 7 years ago, 8 years ago? And then he had to cancel, I think. No. Lauryn Hill was supposed to show up, if I'm not mistaken. I had tickets, but then she canceled, and then Damian Marley showed up. Right? They didn't actually coordinate this, but that's simply how it happened. And I don't think I went to that concert. You can't stop me from watching, said my kid. Sneezer, person with Hebrew name, he's just way behind, skipping ahead right now. Sorry, my keyboard doesn't have the Hebrew letters. Taylor said, well, Robert answered that it's a toy. Hey, if you need me, call me, okay? I'll stop this at the drop of a hat, okay? Okay, hey, if the fam needs me, then you, fam, might need to wait. No offense. I kind of do see, said Taylor, Jesus, Yeshua, as the reincarnation of the Jewish God. Well, see, that's where, again, that idea of incarnation, God incarnate, that's the great divide, as I see it, between the Hebrew faith and the Torah, and between followers of Yeshua and any New Testament. Because even if you make the argument that there was a kind of resurrection, as it is said to be later, right, that Yeshua was the first to partake of the fruit of the tree of life, it still does not make him a God. It makes him a fully realized image of God. Do you know what I mean? Maybe you don't, maybe you do. But that's the great divide, right? That's why even if I'm able to accept the fact that Yeshua actually walked during the times of the Second Temple, right, all over Israel, and even if I do accept the claim or fact that he was a sage and a rabbi and a teacher and a master and a good guy and a miracle worker. Good night. Feel better. Even if we do accept all of that, and when I say we, I mean me, I still see that as a great division, right? That idea of death, because we don't follow death. We follow the living. We do not follow the dead kings. We follow in their footsteps. We do not follow them. Do you understand what I'm saying? So that's why I've always been the great. I've always been a great supporter, let's say, of the dialogue. But that's where it breaks down for me. The incarnation. And that idea of God or Son of God or that Trinity idea. Because the Trinity is not like the 10 Sefirot. The 10 Sefirot are revelations of the Most High. But people say that the Trinity are literally parts of God. And that's something that I don't abide by personally. Taylor 26 says, Sneezer, that is the Christian perspective. And my name is literally Ariane. We love Pinky, said Robert. Taylor said to Sneezer, during the Maccabee time, Antiochus IV put a statue of Zeus in the temple. It seems as though this influenced Yod-Heh Vav-Heh, since Zeus had children with mortal women. Well, I'm not sure what you mean, because the name Yod-Heh Vav-Heh has been around, right? The name that we pronounce Adonai. That has been around for much, much longer than Antiochus or Zeus, for that matter, if I'm not mistaken. So maybe I'm wrong, maybe I'm misreading, because he's answering Sneezer, so I'm kind of delving into the conversation that's not really mine to delve into. I love her more, Robert, said my boy. So you are an Aryan Christian then? No, not really, I'm Muslim. Ras Singh, hey, good to see you. Keep going live, brother. Love catching them when I can. And I love being here when I can. It's such a blessing, such a privilege to sit here and engage with you guys. Sneezer said to Taylor, I define God as that which is left when all else, even time, is removed, leaving unchanging perfection. Zeus is far, far less than God. Far, far less than God, being unconditional love for all that exists, was most perfectly embodied in Jesus, he said. Okay. I don't have a definition, said Taylor to Sneezer. Ariane said BMXers, Salamu alaikum. Wa alaikum salam, he replied. Uh-oh. Did I get lost again here? Oh, okay, here we are. The chat sometimes jumps. This is basically from the mouth of our eldest descendant, said Sneezer, except it didn't speak. Except it didn't speak? From the mouth, but not spoken. Okay. Sneezer continues, I wrote a book about it, short and cheap, available in any bookstore by order. Thank you, man, for answering, says Ariane. Well, first of all, that book, well, I'm assuming it's more for followers of Yeshua, so you'll forgive me if I don't, partake of the book, if that is in fact what you're saying, if I'm understanding you correctly. And Ariane, thanks for being here. It's nice to have you here. This place is open to all faiths and all religions and walks of life. It's just an open dialogue, BMXer says, by the way, you once said you might go raw vegan. Would you ever go fruitarian before Olam Haba? So yeah, I might go raw vegan. It's something that I have in the back burner. On the back burner, in the back of my mind. But only fruit? I don't know. I have no idea. If I was absolutely certain that I could lead a good life, getting all of my nutrients with that, I'd consider it. Or with raw veganism. But you know me, I'm a lazy vegan. I'm a hazy, lazy, crazy vegan. And I don't, God has blessed me with, bli ayin ra'ah. God has blessed me with a lovely body and kick-ass metabolism and a relatively skinny frame and a general good health. So I can, and also I'm careful. They draw blood at least once a year, and I have it tested and checked out that I'm in the right ranges for everything that I can, for the mainstream blood test things that they check. So I'm cautious. But to go raw vegan would necessitate so much, I think, of me. I would have to be in such a place in life where I'm able to facilitate that. But yeah, I might go raw vegan. That's still something that I'm considering. So would you ever go fruitarian? I might, because might as well at that point, right? Robert says I was debating riding my bike off the roof, but my wife stopped me. Good on you, Paula. Sneezer says to BMX, I would love to go fruitarian, but it's most expensive lifestyle in Canada. It's the most expensive lifestyle in Canada. Taylor says perhaps God picks and chooses as well. Well, once again, because you can say God, but I don't know God, and the idea of picking and choosing, maybe, everything has its time and its place in the divine revelation. Sneezer says to Taylor, no doubt, but chose ahead of time. I was going entirely the wrong direction, which also would have been pre-decided by God, said Sneezer. Robert Harrison says, underneath Yeshua, Yon is my rabbi, but no oral Torah. Well, once again, not a rabbi, but it's always been lovely to engage with you, Robert and Paula, the Harrisons, and thank you. I appreciate the sentiment and the kind words, but truly not a rabbi. Just joking about the roof. Ariel is here. Yo, Jonathan. Hello. Technically, it means submit to Adonai El God. Yeah, submission. And most importantly, Jesus, he said, Allah only means Allah, the God. Oh, I lost my spot again. There it is. Okay, guys, good night. Oh, I see he chatted that he's going to sleep. Sneezer says, but I can hear him. He's awake. That doesn't mean all who claim to be Muslim understand, or even the majority. Aw, he loves me. Love you, Abba, and all you guys. Look at that. Hug's name I can't spell or read. Taylor says there's a few people out there who believe in Kemet. Kemet, or whatever. I'm not sure what Kemet is. Kemet literally in Hebrew means wrinkle. But okay, I'm assuming you don't mean wrinkle. Sneezer says, how to handle the show I think is something to ponder, but in my opinion it is going well. I was thinking maybe it should be like a book that you keep getting back to, but perhaps end the show in current. As the months go on, you'll get years behind. Maybe. Then your sons can continue it later. Well, you know what? Something I've made very clear to them. I'm showing them a certain path, hopefully embodying certain virtues or values that I haven't actually attained them, but I'm saying, here's something that's good to follow. And then it's their choice, whether or not they choose to follow. Right? But my little Levites, I have no doubt that they'll make the right decisions for them, hopefully for others as well. Sneezer says, could even dedicate the first half hour or hour to catching up, and then whatever for the end. Gives people a chance to arrive. No offense taken. If the fam needs you, run. Jesus is the best image of God. Agreed. Well, yeah, that's, again, if you're or as it's called in India, avatar. Okay. People are only dead once forgotten. To be dead is to feel disconnected from God. You are? I'm disconnected from God de facto. There's revelations of God that are always being channeled through me as a human being, living, breathing, walking, talking, broadcasting. So there is a spark of life that I believe originates in a divine revelation. But once again, I must say there is a disconnect as far as I'm concerned. There's creator and creation. And that revelation, which is the closest, right, which is called Keter, that revelation, that initial revelation that we can't even speak of or fathom, or, right, because I've always likened it to inspiration, right? That's the first revelation. And Keter is where inspiration comes from. So we don't even know that, right? Inspiration, you don't know where it comes from? That's That's the keter. It's the unknown. But see, there are two types of unknown. There's unknown that you don't know, and there's the unknown that you simply do not know that you don't know. That's kind of what keter is about. Because on the one hand, it is completely unknown, right? It's the head that does not even know itself. And on the other hand, it gave birth, let's say, to the other 9 sfirot, right? So we know that coming down the line, there's a great big difference between the first 3 and the bottom 7. But nevertheless, there's a line that runs straight through, from Keter, through Da'at, Tiferet, and down to Malchut. There's a progression there. And that's something that reaches from the highest highs to the lowest lows. And that is also embodied in us, human beings, being in the image of God, but material, right? The soul, the body, that whole thing. But I don't feel disconnected from God. I simply know that there is a disconnect. That's simply how I know it. Or that's simply how I view it, based on the teachings of Rabbi Moshe Cordovero and others. Many, right, we spoke yesterday a bit of Hasidism. Many people in Hasidism believe that the soul is what's called Chelek Eloha Mima'al, a real, not a spark of divine revelation, but a spark of the divine himself, right? Or the divine themselves. And that's something which a lot of people stick to. That's something which a lot of people do believe, that the soul is something literally part of God. Now, in Genesis, oh, wait, there's a lag. I'm not sure. Is it just my computer? Is it other? I don't know if it lagged or not, but I seem to be back on. Okay. So that idea of Chelek Eloha Mima'al, that idea of being truly a part of the divine, it's something that a lot of people do feel is true. But in Genesis, it says, Vayipach be'apav nishmat chayim, that he breathed into his nose the breath of life, right, or his face. He breathed into him the breath of life, nishmat chayim. And that means something that went outside. That means I see it then as a type of revelation and not part of the divine themselves. The true form of God, says Sneezer, cannot be completely described. It would take eternity, however many descriptions are valid. Yes, but descriptions, they remain, and not the essence of. Once again, if it can be perceived, it is already not God. That's how I view it. Radar Shadow says, even Christians don't agree on Arianism. So wait, if Aryan was Muslim, I wonder which language. Maybe it means different things in different languages. Obviously, it might. Sneezer says unconditional love cannot be fully described either, but it can be clearly described as unconditional. It can be described. Right, can be described, but not fully perceived. Right, just like you can describe an apple, but you can't necessarily know what it's like to be an apple. That's maybe a bad analogy, but there you have it. Likewise, God, and for good reason, I chose those words. Taylor says, I'm saying that Zeus's presence in the Second Temple during Antiochus' time influenced Adonai's incarnation of Yeshua, such as Zeus, right? Zeus, Jesus, Yeshua. I've heard people conflate them, or whatever the term is. I'm on for almost an hour. I think I'm going to go soon. I think I'm going to go very soon. Sorry, Spirit took over there, said Sneezer. Oh, you know what? Wow, we're almost at the end. You know what? I'm going to power through, and we'll get to the end of this chat. Jesus is the Son of God, said Taylor, and the mortal woman Mary. Hebrew Nazarite, says Taylor, the New Testament never says to worship Jesus. I see Jesus as a second kind of Adam, a new beginning, a general foundation. Sneezer says worship is already a highly subjective term. Right, and I agree, it is. Taylor 26 says Apostle Paul and Quran 359 say Jesus is like Adam. Adam is also called Son of God in Luke 3:38. Taylor continues, Jesus is the Son of God, but not actually fully God in my view, right? I think that's why the Trinity has that God, the Son, the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. But I don't know anything about the Trinity myself. Sneezer says to Taylor, it seems to me you are at least close with regards to Jesus. We are all children of God and none complete. As Jesus said, call no man on earth your father. Jesus came to show us there is no disconnect, said Sneezer. It says, Sneezer, it's a game God plays with himself called I Forget You Are Me. Taylor 26 says to Sneezer, I am not a standard Christian, but Jesus Yeshua does figure into my theology. And Sneezer replies, and that I would say is perfect. Jesus will correct where you go wrong. Inside time, perfect is the ability to change. Outside time, unchanging perfection is all there is. Inside time, perfect is the ability to change. Outside time, unchanging perfection. So yeah, I see what you're saying there. 10 out of 10, no lag. Beautiful. Sneezer says, being one with that unchanging perfection is divinely blissful. Of course, you can know what it's like to be an apple, but you have to journey outside time first, then return. Well, I don't know what it means to journey outside time. I've had some psychedelic experiences brought on by different things, natural and unnatural alike, spiritual and more physical alike. I suppose to know what it is to be an apple is that oneness that you can feel with all creation and all living things and all of nature. I've been there. So maybe you're right. Maybe in some ways I do know what it's like to be an apple. Maybe. On that note, bravo, says Harrison. You did it. Exactly, says Sneezer. And on that note, just over an hour, I'm going to say goodbye. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Tomorrow night I am not going to be here. I will see you on Wednesday. Maybe I'll do a short tomorrow, or maybe I'll spontaneously go live in the morning. I don't know. Who knows? But tomorrow night, 10 p.m., I will not be here. Hopefully, I will see you Wednesday night for another live stream. So leave comments right after. I'll put this on private because I'll put this on public because the live stream immediately goes to private as soon as I'm done. I'll put it on public. You'll be able to continue conversing there if you want in the chats. And Hebrew Nazarite across the board. If you want to shoot me a DM, right? Twitter and or X, TikTok. I'm on Instagram and on Facebook and over here. So check it out if you want. Things you want me to discuss. Things you would want me not to discuss. I don't know if I'll do it, but you can say it. And once again, thank you. You could be doing anything else right now, good people, but you're here with me, and I appreciate it. Your time, your kind attention, your wisdom, your knowledge. You enlighten me, you expand my horizons, and I truly, genuinely appreciate and cherish the times that we have together here. It's so much fun. Really. Laila Tov from Jerusalem. Good night.